All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for braving this god awful cold weather and coming out to listen to this today. And thank you to Nature Time for hosting as well. Um, I'm here today because Nature Time is all about healing and wellness, and so am I. My message today is about positivity and how important that is in healing. And my journey is about my cancer. And I've now been twice a cancer survivor. And a lot of what I did to help heal myself was positivity. Of course, I have really wonderful doctors and really wonderful medical treatments. But a lot of what helped me get from where I started to where I am today and where I continue to go is through positivity. And I really think that that is one of the unsung heroes of healing yourself. And certainly to me, negativity is a disease unto itself. And positivity really, really can help do things that even modern medicine can't do. So my whole thing is creating a positive environment for yourself. And I know sometimes it's really a lot easier said than done, but I walk the walk and talk the talk. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of history on myself and, again, tell you how positivity factors into so much of my story. And one thing you'll learn about me is I really don't take myself too seriously. And a lot of what I deal with in my everyday life is the humor aspect of it, and I've learned to always laugh at myself. But during all of this, my whole journey, the one thing that's got me through it was I never lost the vision of myself being healed. I use visualization, and I know you've probably heard of that before because a lot of athletes use visualization. I actually always saw myself healed and well. The first time I had cancer, and now again this time, I used visualization. And again, like I said, athletes use that technique, visualization. They'll see themselves crossing the finish line. They'll see themselves scoring a touchdown. The fact that I'm even using a sports metaphor is hilarious because I am like the anti-sports girl. I sit there watching sports with my boyfriend, and I'm like, what is that? Who are they? What are they doing? And I get the eye roll. But I understand the visualization aspect. A little story is a couple years ago, I bought this fixer-upper of a house, and it was truly the wreck of all wrecks. And it was one of those houses where tacky 70s, avocado toilet, and smelly shag rugs went to die. So I had this vision that I was going to buy this house and I was going to fix it up. So very early into it, it turned into an even bigger project than I ever could have imagined. And contractors and friends and family were questioning my sanity. And I thought, oh my gosh, I really, really did step into it here. But what got me through it was visualizing myself at the end, sitting in front of a Christmas tree with my children opening gifts. And every time a contractor would drag me into another room and go, oh, Anne-Marie, I got to show you something. That's never good. When a contractor says, Anne-Marie, I got to show you something, it's never, hey, we found a big bag of money behind this wall. It was, oh, Anne-Marie, we got something really bad in this room to show you. I would close my eyes, and I would see myself sitting in front of that Christmas tree with my children. Because you know what? Christmas was coming. It was on the calendar. It was on everybody's calendar. And I was going to be on the other side, and I was going to be sitting in front of that Christmas tree with my kids. I visualized it. And so whenever anything happened in my life that was a bit unfortunate, including cancer, I always pictured myself. I would close my eyes and picture myself well. And that's what I always try to do. So that's what I recommend to anybody going through something like that. You pick a place on the calendar. So I'd have, say, 8 weeks of chemotherapy. And I'd look at the calendar, okay, what's next? Oh, my birthday is after chemotherapy. Okay, birthday cake. Okay, got it. Happy birthday and birthday cake. That's what's next. 2 solid weeks of radiation. What's on the calendar? Arbor Day. That's not going to do it. What's better than Arbor Day? Michael Kors sale, 4th of July family picnic. Okay, that's working for me. Picture something. Picture yourself there. Picture yourself healed. That will help you get to the other side. And that's absolutely what worked for me every time, was visualizing myself on the other side of whatever I was going through and picturing myself well and kicking whatever's butt. So I'm going to give you a little context on my cancer journey and rewind. So the year is 2003, and I've got two little kids, about 6 and 8, and I am the luckiest person I know. I've got my ex-husband and I are building our dream house. I've got a fairly new business, and it's really successful and doing well. And one day I'm standing in my kitchen in front of the hardest working appliance in my whole house, the microwave, and waiting for something to come out. And so I've got my arms crossed really tight in front of me, and my finger lands on something weird. It lands on a lump. So, of course, I don't do anything by the book. The book was not written for people like me, the ADD-addled, Mach 4 with the hair on fire people. You know, I'm not going to find a lump in the shower with a little hanger thing and it says every month, this is where you check for lumps in your breast, not in front of the microwave, wait for a bag of popcorn. I find my lump in the kitchen, okay? So I feel around and I go, oh, this does not feel right. So my ex-husband comes home that night and says, yeah, that doesn't feel right. So after a fairly restless night of sleep, I call my doctor the next morning. And she is a wonderful doctor. And, you know, I was very fortunate. I've had good doctors through this whole journey. And she gets me right in. She does not patronize me or anything. And I go very quickly from microwave to radiology to biopsy. And they confirm what I kind of knew. I had cancer. So we moved fairly quickly after that, after my positive cancer diagnosis, which moving forward, let's just follow that. We're going to file that under oxymoron. That's the only place I think positive really doesn't belong. Positive cancer diagnosis. Really? Positive? Oh, that's what we call it. We call that a positive cancer diagnosis. So I don't really like positive there. So being a very direct person, I asked my doctor, okay, am I going to die? I really wanted to know. I didn't want her to candy coat it and dance around it. I said, am I going to die? And she said, no, you're not going to die. It's okay. Well, okay, tell me what I got to do. You line up the fiery hoops, and I'm going to jump through them. You make a plan, and I'm going to stick to it. So we made a plan, and my plan was lumpectomy, chemotherapy, and radiation. This was the plan. So we set about executing the plan. So I go call my hairdresser and say, okay, I have cancer. I'm going to lose my hair. Let's go find me some hair. Now, for the people that don't know me well, on a muggy day, I look like a fuzzy Howard Stern. That is the natural condition of my hair. It's ridiculous. So I was like, okay, well, I never really liked my hair, so glass half being full for me all the time, I get to pick my hair. I get to go into a store and shop for good hair now. So that's what I did. I got to shop for good hair. Okay, ready for chemo. So put on a pair of big girl panties, and off we went to the hospital, and I had my lumpectomy. So, you know, the lumpectomy wasn't as horrible, I guess, as a lot of surgeries. So again, glass being half full, I'm a fairly positive person. They're going to discharge me the next day. So I thought, okay, this is good news. But I don't know if any of you have ever had surgery, but they're discharging me with one of those horrible drains, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know, it's like a horrible, stupid thing inconveniently installed under your arm that looks like the bulbous end of a turkey baster. And that's what they're going to send me home with. Now, I begged and cajoled. I had nothing to barter with. You know, I'm in a hospital gown. There's nothing. I got nothing to barter with. Nope, you're going home with a drain, Anne-Marie. So I had a birthday party that weekend for a relative. And I thought, okay, I'm going to that birthday party. Me and my turkey baster part are going to the birthday party. Because you know what? I'm at just about anything for cake. Going to the birthday party. So went home, dressed around my turkey baster part, got myself all made up and pretty, and I went to the party. And everybody, oh, you look so great. You don't look like you had surgery. Fabulous. So Monday comes along. Boy, you can't trust that day. So I went to the doctors. My sister took me because this was just going to be routine. They were going to take the doggone turkey baster part out from under my arm and send me home. Well, the universe had other plans for me that day because the doctor had bad news. She said that they turned up more cancer and I had cancer in my lymph nodes. So, okay, now we got a plan B to deal with. So this is the point in time where I have to make another decision. What are we going to do now? So I had to make the decision to have a mastectomy or a bilateral mastectomy. So to me, this was a very big decision and a personal decision, and I know a lot of people have to deal with this often as well. But to me, there was, again, I'm always going to look for the silver lining. If I had a bilateral mastectomy, I wouldn't have to have radiation. Okay, there's a little good news in there. So that's what I decided to do. And I have to say, in the interest of full disclosure, I take bad news fairly well. I'm going to be the cheerleader. I'm going to rally. I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to do what I have to do. But what I don't do well is have people muck up my plans. And this kind of mucked up my plans. So I did have a little bit of a bad day there where I went home and I was really pissed off. And if I had the inclination to throw things, that would have been the day I threw things and maybe took off my big girl panties and burned them. But I rallied. We moved forward. So stage 2 meant plan B, which meant the bilateral mastectomy. So I have to say that a lot of women are very curious about the decision to do the bilateral mastectomy. And I have to say it's very, very personal. And I have a few reasons for doing it. My first reason was God doesn't give us a lot of replaceable parts. To me, what's more easily replaceable than breasts? I mean, seriously, there are reality shows based about replacing breasts. Rappers pay homage to fake breasts. Like, really? It wasn't an arm. It wasn't a leg. The original ones that I had, first of all, were kind of pissed at me. Second of all, they'd fallen a little south of where they started. You know, in fairness to them, they nursed 2 children. I was very grateful for their service. But, you know what? They weren't the worst parts to go, okay? So that wasn't the worst idea. Second of all, I knew I could get through this once. The idea that it could come back in my other breast, the risk of reoccurrence was pretty high. I knew I could do it once. Every poke, every prick, every biopsy, every test. Ugh, the thought of then doing it again if it came back, I was like, oh, not so much. Okay, let's let that go. Third, I thought, where is my plastic surgeon going to find a match for that drooping? Let's not put him through there. Let's make them both go. So off we went with the bilateral mastectomy. But I do get a lot of questions from women on that. And again, very personal choice. That's something that everybody has to make. So again, I didn't find this under the worst news in the world. It was moving forward. Clean slate. So along comes the day of the mastectomy. I'm not going to go into great details on that day, but a side note on that day, it was the day that my column that I used to write for the Post-Standard came out in the newspaper. I did spend the whole night throwing up because I had a horrible reaction to morphine. So after that horrible night, the nurses had tended to me all night. They were wonderful. I said, can somebody please go get the newspaper? My byline comes out this morning, and there's a picture of how I would look if I hadn't been puking all night. So they brought in the paper. I said, that's me. And they said, really? We never would have guessed. I said, great. In about 24 hours, I'll look like her again. So see, again, glass half full. Okay? But the good news again was I woke up, and I was alive, and I got to see my kids. Okay? So again, there's always something good moving forward. Okay? And they told me I wasn't going to die. So again, more good news. So now we've had the mastectomy. Now we have to heal a little. And now comes chemotherapy. Well, everybody knows chemotherapy is probably not a barrel of chocolate truffles. But the worst part about chemotherapy, the absolute worst, was that food tasted nothing like it used to taste. I mean, nothing like it. Cheesecake no longer tasted like cheesecake, more like a kitchen sponge. Okay? Water tasted like carp had been swimming in it. And all they kept saying was, make sure you drink a lot of water. Make sure you drink a lot of water. Seriously, the worst tasting thing in the world. Thank God for peach Snapple. Peach Snapple still tasted like peach Snapple. That's the only thing that tasted like it used to taste, was peach Snapple. So, We made it through chemotherapy, and again, my wig was all ready to go. But I have to say, there is still nothing like waking up and finding chunks of your meticulously colored red hair laying on your pillow. I felt like an old Irish setter shedding that winter coat. But again, all temporary. Moving forward, I could visualize being well and healed and being all on the other side of it. And I do have a funny story to share. My son's probably not going to forgive me for this one, but I visualize myself on the other side with him forgiving me. So, here's the story. I told you at the beginning of this, we were in the middle of building our dream home. So, our dream home really, at that point in time where I was going through chemo, was a hole in the ground. All it was a hole in the ground. And we'd already sold our home. So what that meant was a third of my lifelong possessions were in a storage unit. Another third were in a trailer in a freight yard somewhere. And another third were in a quaint house that we were renting. And by quaint, I mean the geophysical equivalent of 15 pounds of poop in a 5-pound sack. We were crammed in this little teeny tiny house that we were renting. Okay? So here I was with my hair had fallen out and I wasn't wearing my wig around the house. And what you need to know about your hair falling out, excuse me, is it doesn't all just fall out and you look like Michael Jordan. No, no. More like a baby bird with little sprockets of strange buzz. Okay, that's what you look like. So my son and I are squeezing past each other in the hall of this teeny tiny house we're renting one night. And he looks up at me with a funny little boy face. I said, "What's the matter, bud?" And he goes, "Well, you just don't look like my mommy anymore." And now I'm warming to this kind of warm and frank discussion we're about to have. And I thought, oh, bud, who do I look like? And he looks up at me, because I asked the question, remember? He goes, Frankenstein's mommy? And I just threw back my head, and I laughed. It was like the funniest thing I'd ever heard. Really and truly. And in the interest of full disclosure, I asked the question. Okay? Well, my ex-husband heard this little exchange, and he took him aside and he said, "Listen, you can't say stuff like that to your mom. You're going to hurt her feelings." It didn't hurt my feelings at all. It made me laugh. Okay? I asked the question. My son didn't view me as some fragile, broken, sick woman. He knew whose mama he was talking to. He knew. And he made me laugh. Okay? One of my favorite stories ever. And again, I'm visualizing myself forgiven for telling that story because he's sitting in the back of the room. So, anyway, my ex-husband looked at me and he said, "Well, you know, you do look a little sicker than you appear to feel." So I said, "All right, well, let's shave this stuff off." So we shaved the rest of my head, and I did look a little more like Michael Jordan after that. And so the good news, again, because I'm always looking for the positive side, my father didn't have any explaining to do. There were no undocumented dings or divots in my shiny new cranium. So that was good news, too. And I went back to my kids a couple years later because I was writing an article for Komen, and I wanted their take on it all once they got a little older. And I said, "So, I'm writing this article. Do you have anything you'd like to tell me or anything you'd like to add about me having cancer?" And they were both, no. They said, "We were just scared." They both said they were scared. They remember they knew enough about cancer to know that people died, and they didn't want their mom to die. And I'll tell you one thing that we did, my ex-husband and I, was we kept the cancer talk to a minimum. And the whole mechanism that was our life back then, cancer hummed along in the background. It wasn't constantly chugging along in the front. We weren't sitting at the table going, "Well, my white counts were really high today, and my crit levels were this." I mean, that was boring talk even for me. We certainly didn't bring it to the dinner table. We had scouts and we had soccer. We had things to do. We had a house to build. We had stuff to do. Cancer was never going to get top billing because you know what? It didn't deserve it. I was in charge, not cancer. I was calling the shots, not cancer. I was going to decide what got top billing and what did not. And cancer most definitely did not deserve it. So I think that really kept important things like birthday parties and soccer games right there in the forefront and kept things a little more normal and stable. So now, after that first time, I had to decide for myself what my mission was going to be. And I made a conscious effort to do that. And I decided my mission was going to be not to squander my tenancy on earth. So I thought, what can I do? What can I do to pay it forward? Because I felt very fortunate to have now, not just one chance, the life that I was given the first time, but now a second chance at it. So I created this thing called the Pink Ribbon Circle. And what I did was I created this monthly email reminder, and it reminded women to do their monthly self-exam, the thing that I had clearly not been so vigilant to do. So every month I sent out an email to about 75 women who had gotten on my list, and it reminded them to do their monthly self-exam. And every month I'd send out little blurbs, things I'd learned about new advances in cancer or charity events that were happening for women and things like that. And a couple things came out of that. I had a friend who ironically was a nurse. And she wrote me one time and said, you know what, Amory, I never regularly examined my breasts until I started getting your emails. That was shocking to me, but it made me feel like I was doing something important. And another thing that came out of it was I have a very close friend now who had cancer the same time I did. 3 months after I was diagnosed, she was diagnosed, and we had the identical cancer. And we used to talk on the phone all the time, and she'd be having a bad day, or she'd be starting a new treatment the next day, and she'd be afraid, and she'd call. And I'd spend a lot of time on the phone, and I'd try to make her laugh. And her laughter was like medicine for both of us. And one day she sent me a note, and it said, if you ever wondered if anything good came out of you having cancer, something did. It helped me. And those words move me to this day. Every time I read them or think about them, they're one of the most moving things that anyone's ever said to me. And that is paying it forward. And I don't do the Pink Ribbon Circle anymore. I did it for about 8 years because now there's apps on your phone and things like that to remind you. So it became something that I didn't necessarily need to do, but it is important to pay it forward. I felt so blessed to have that second chance. So that's the first part of my story. But of course, the universe always has other things in store. So we fast forward. And I have to say one very important thing. Cancer has never taken anything from me that really matters. Not my breath, not anything that really, really is important. It didn't then, and it hasn't now. So, moving forward, I still have a wonderful life. I have 2 wonderful, healthy kids. I have a good business. I have a new wonderful man in my life. I still have all those things. And to me, my glass is way past half full. It is overflowing. I'm still the luckiest person I know. We're more than the sum of our parts. We're more than our breath, the shoes we wear, the car we drive. All of us are. I don't see myself as any less of a woman because I lost my breath. Again, we're more than the sum of our parts. All of us. People are important. You make your coworker laugh. You see the twinkle in your child's eye. You hold the hand of your significant other just doing nothing at all. Those are the things that are important in life. These are the things that we sometimes forget. So now we're in 2013, 10 years later. I'm getting ready to celebrate my 10-year anniversary, cancer-free. But again, the universe sees something else. But again, I'm still the luckiest person I know. I'm landscaping in my yard one day. I love to landscape. I love to garden. It's one of my passions. And I'm lifting some wet bags of mulch because I think I'm superwoman. I forget that I'm, 50 years old. And they say that 50 is the new 30, but, this body did not get that memo. So I'm lifting these bags and tossing them around, and I throw my back out for good. So I am popping Motrin like they're Tic Tacs, and I can barely walk. I can't stand, I can't sit, I can't lay down. I sure as heck can't bend over. If something falls on the floor, unless it's going to kill the dog, it stays there. I am ridiculously in pain. So my accountant comes over one day. She's watching me very ungracefully go from piece of furniture to piece of furniture, and she says, what the heck is wrong with you? And I said, I threw my back out. I was in the yard, mulch, blah, blah, blah. She said, well, I have a great chiropractor. You should go see him. I said, is he close by? You know? And she said, yeah. I said, well, write his number here on the wall so I see it, and I'll go call him. So I call him. Wonderful man named Ken Isles. Absolutely wonderful. So he gets me right in. I go see him. We fill out that big, huge health questionnaire. And he says, I'm going to take an x-ray. I'm not going to touch you. I want to take an x-ray. So he takes an x-ray. And he says, well, I see an anomaly on your x-ray. I've seen this before. I don't want to alarm you, but it could be cancer metastasizing on your spine. And I said, well, the good news is I don't get alarmed. And what do we do? He says, you need to go see your doctor right away. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I go see my doctor. And again, we do the test, we do the scans, and the doctor confirms the worst. I have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer in my bones. So they find a fist-sized cancerous mass on my sacrum, causing all that pain. And they find more cancer on my skull and my ribs and other places on my body. And you could knock me over with a feather. And the doctors are saying to me, weren't you in pain? I said, I'm 50 years old. Of course I had pain. It's what Motrin's for. And you take your Motrin and you move along. But it wasn't anything huge. It was a little back pain here or there. We all have pain, right? You don't go run into the doctor and say, hey, I think I have cancer. So now we move forward again. Now we have to start this process all over again. So I was so grateful to Ken Isles for finding that and being so diligent and being such a good doctor. And I can't sing his praises highly enough. I just think he's a wonderful guy. So the plan now is we have to do radiation because we have to shrink that tumor causing so much pain. But I will tell you this. I went to see my doctor, who was my original doctor from 2003. And she was a wonderful woman, and we had gotten to be friends over the years. And I went there with now my brand new boyfriend of 5 months. He was so wonderful. He went with me to the doctor appointment, and she gave me the news. And I'll tell you, there's moments in your life that crystallize. And they're the kind of moments where if you want to make them run on a continuous loop and make them define you and bring you down, you can. Or you can just conjure them up and make them clear as day. And I choose to just conjure them up if I need to, and they're clear as day. And I haven't shared this story with a lot of people, but we were sitting in the office, and he was across from me, and she was explaining the tumor and what it was, and that it was on my bones. And again, the good news, the glass being half full, it wasn't in any of my soft tissue. It wasn't in any organ. It was only in my bones. So again, glass half full. But I looked at her in my direct style and asked the question I always ask. What's my prognosis? What's going to happen to me now? And I remember looking at her, and I can see her face so clearly. And she said to me, 3 to 5 years. It was like someone took a 2x4 and smacked me in my face. 3 to 5 years? This woman's given me 3 to 5 years? And I looked at her, and I looked at my boyfriend, and we both just stared at each other. And she got tears in her eyes, and we got tears in our eyes, and she left the room, and we both cried. And we had our moment. And she came back in the room. I don't really remember a lot of the rest of the appointment. This woman told me I was going to have 3 to 5 years. Are you kidding me? I got shit to do. I got kids to raise. I got weddings to plan. I got grandbabies to hold. Nobody's given me 3 to 5 years. Are you kidding? No way. Not happening. So, again, we make a plan. And we have a plan. And so far, it's working. I've got a new doctor only because geography, she moved. So we have a good plan, and it's going well. And I feel wonderful. I feel like I look maybe a little better. Who knows? Thank you, depending on the day. But I feel good. So I'm not going to complain. The glass is half full. I'm still the luckiest person I know. And why is that? Because I got one big problem. I have cancer. One problem. I have great kids. I have a business. I have a great guy. I have a great life. And I have cancer. One thing against all these. So what am I going to complain about? I still view my life as being awesome. I've got this one thing that's kind of bugging me. I have cancer. But my new doctor has told me that he's got people living with what I have for 10 and 20 years. Okay, I like those numbers a little bit better. Those are working for me. And there's so many new treatments. There's so many people working on this disease. That's the good news. You turn on your TV, you see cancer this, cancer that, this cancer center, that cancer center. There's so many people working on this disease. We are treating it as a pain in the ass chronic illness, and that's just what we're doing. But every day I get up and I don't think about me, the cancer patient. I think about me as the mom, the businesswoman, the friend, the niece, the daughter, the sister, all the other things I am. And cancer patient is way, way down here. Again, cancer does not get top billing in my life because it doesn't deserve it. It's not where it's supposed to be. So, again, I use positivity to keep myself moving forward. If I wanted to, I could say, well, I'm a cancer patient. I'm going to just sit in bed all day. But that's not who I am. That's not going to move me forward. That's just going to bring me backwards. And my end goal never changed. Again, I always see myself holding a grandbaby. Not anytime soon, people, but that's the end goal. My life right now, it revolves around college stuff. It revolves around letting the dog out, trying to find the perfect under-eye concealer. Still, that's a goal. What are the Property Brothers up to do? I do the same thing everybody else is doing. That's my life. And you know what? I have, again, I keep saying healthy children, fabulous friends, fabulous family. These are gifts that if tomorrow I won the lottery, I couldn't buy this stuff. I couldn't buy any of it. So what do I have to complain about? And I want to make sure that, again, the legacy I leave behind is not how I died, it's how I lived. And I think that that's really important. Right now, we live in times where everything moves so fast. We've got 24-hour news cycles. Everything is fast, 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 fast. We're at a party or we're out doing something, and all of a sudden people are uploading the moment onto 3 different forms of social media. How can you be in the moment when you're trying to do all of this other stuff? Stay in the moment, enjoy the moment, appreciate the moment. We're the proverbial squirrels on the wheel. We're always rushing, rushing, rushing. But outside of that wheel is the peripheral. And there's so much good stuff going on in the peripheral that we need to keep our eye on it and appreciate all that stuff, because that's where the good stuff is, in the peripheral. We have to appreciate all the little things. I'm here, you're here, we're here at Nature Time, this wonderful store. You brought somebody with you, they're here with you. These are the things we have to appreciate. All these little things that sometimes we let just slip by us. Those are the things that really are important. There's a really popular expression, live like you're dying. I don't like it. I say, live like you're living. So important to live like you're living. I don't think you should need the specter of death hanging over your head. Truly live your life. I think that you shouldn't need that specter to pull the good clothes from the closet, to pull the good silver from the drawer, to color with the new crayon. Life is better with all the cool stuff. Why not use the cool stuff every single day? Live like you're living, not live like you're dying. I have vowed to make the bit of life I have left, no matter how long it is, the best I can make it, and appreciate all the people that are in it. That's what I vow to do, and that's what I challenge everybody else to do. Live like you're living in the most positive way that you can do it. So I'm going to tell all the people in my life how much I appreciate them, how nice they look, how glad I am they're here, and how much I enjoy their company. It means something to them to do that. And that's what I challenge everybody else to do because it's a part of healing. So my personal plan to live like I'm living, I'm a survivor, I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a cockeyed optimist, always. And I challenge you all to do the same because, again, not to brag, but I'm the luckiest person I know. And I thank you all for your attention today. So go live like you're living. Thank you.